Hey, it's Mirna from Trainer's Toolbox. Welcome to the Trainer's Toolbox podcast, a place where you can discover practical and effective tools and tips to make your workshops more insightful, engaging, and memorable. You are at the right place if you're looking to become the best trainer you can be and design truly impactful learning experiences. Ready? Let's dive in. To achieve any deep change or meaningful results, there are four key elements that need to align. When these four are all working for you, then you get consistent progress and you get results and change that truly sticks and stays and doesn't just evaporate and fade out. At the same time, if you have one of these elements missing, suddenly your progress is slow and often you're not even sure why. So these four key elements are a great framework of what you want to think to build all for when you want to create change for yourself or for others or achieve results. But they're also a great checklist to check when you're trying to change something or create a certain result or achieve a certain goal and you're feeling like your progress is a little bit more slow than you would like it. Then you go back to these four and you check which one might be the weak link, which one might be missing. Now, I'll share these four key elements. Of course, you can also find them in the episode notes, which you can download as a brief summary on the link in the notes of this episode. And before diving into them, I just want to share what are different ways that you can actually use and leverage these. Well, there are two big groups of how you can use this framework. One, for yourself, and second, for your participants in your programs. For yourself, this is an amazing framework to use for personal growth and developing skills, using all these four key elements to support you when trying to develop a new skill. But you can also use it, for example, to achieve certain goals, such as business development. So in business development, when you target a specific goal, you can again use these four to support you or to support even your business development as a whole or a career development. On the other hand, you can very much leverage them and use them with your participants in any program or experience that you build to truly create circumstances that will make the change stick, that will move your workshop or training or a course from just an insight into truly a result and behavioral change. I hope that sounds exciting. Let's start with the first one. The first of four key elements we have to have covered to ensure we can truly achieve a certain result is a strategy. And a strategy simply means that to move forward, we need to have clarity first of where are we going and how are we going to get there. So we don't need to have a destination in mind, but also have clarity on the list of steps or sort of a map of how are we actually going to get there. That means that every meaningful change starts with having a clear vision, with clarity. Otherwise, we will end up or running in circles, or maybe we will keep shifting direction because we are unsure where we actually want to get. Or maybe we're going to simply stay in the same spot, not being motivated or having clarity of where we want to move. So there are three types of clarity you want to have there. First, clarity of the goal. Where do I actually want to come? What is actually my outcome? What is actually the result I wish to achieve? And having that very clear and working on that clarity if we don't have it already. And then we want to have clarity of the path. What is the step? What is the strategy I choose to take to reach that vision? What are the specific milestones and steps and the path that I'm taking? And then the third thing you want to have in strategy is the clarity of metrics. How will I know that I'm truly progressing? And these metrics, depending on what the goal is and what the behavioral changes, can be very soft or very hard, so much more measurable or a bit more vague and intuitive, but it's important to have clarity of how will I actually know that I'm truly progressing. So in strategy, when we think about it as a trainer, we can take it from this angle. Every learning design that we do needs to start with the goal and then a strategy of what do we think it's the best approach and method to put that goal in the action. And that sounds like a bit of a no-brainer. Of course, you want to start with the goal and strategy even when designing a workshop. But in reality, one of the traps that I see the most with trainers that they kind of fall into and slip into is getting a bit enchanted and in love with our content, or maybe a beautiful tool we came across, or maybe certain process we envisioned and it sounds so interesting and so insightful, but in reality we don't always remain in goal-oriented enough shoes. So this is very much one thing you definitely want to apply from your trainer's shoes in all the design. What is the goal, but then also what is my strategy? How will I lead the participants to that goal before I'm putting in content? Now, the second thing that we want to have covered is action. This one is, again, the most crucial element. All of them are quite crucial. Because, without action, nothing is happening. It's kind of like having the beautiful map, the beautiful destination, maybe even like a ticket, to that destination, but not taking the first step. That's just not going to work. But think, how often do we neglect action? How often do we have participants at the end of the workshop write this beautiful action plan at the end, and then they simply never put it in practice? Or maybe how many times do you set, or anyone, basically set these wonderful New Year resolutions only to have them fade away already in the next couple of days sometimes? So action is what truly moves us forward, taking that action, putting in that energy and aligning it with the strategy. That is what truly creates progress. That is one part we cannot miss. If we just sit and work on envisioning and clarity and the goal and the mindset and the wishful thinking, without action we will not move forward. However, the biggest challenge with action is not even taking that first step, although that can be a big challenge sometimes. The big challenge with action is consistency, sustainability of our action. And consistency beats passion or enthusiasm over long run anytime. So you really want to think, when building action for yourself in our own life, in our own skill development or business development, how am I really bulletproofing this action for sustainable, long-term fulfilling it, and not just jumping into something excitedly and then letting it fade out? And the same thing, equally important, is something we want to build for our participants, where we want to say, how am I building the next steps for them after the workshop, that this insight doesn't remain just an insight, but that it actually transitions into an action? How am I building it in a way to ensure it will translate into their habits, to ensure I support them to build some systems that will support them in putting this action in place? And ultimately, how will I build and support their motivation to really get down to work? So for action, we need to put in time and effort and energy. But again, the most important bit of daily action is daily consistency over time. Action will also be formed by our self-talk, by our mindset, by our beliefs. So it's a lot there that we can fuel, not only by doing, but also by working with thoughts and thinking to support that action. But ultimately, it's really about getting our hands dirty and getting things done. Now, how can you apply this a bit more with your participants? Think, when you work on learning design and when you have that goal and strategy in place, think, how can I really, in my learning design, strongly protect action? Not only insight, not only that they discovered something, but really action. If they're making an action plan, how can I protect it enough that they truly put that action plan into the practice and into reality, and that it doesn't stay just this idea? How can I help them translate the action into a habit, into a system, into the next step? How can I build that structure or support or type of a closure that will really help them make that happen? If you're curious on this part of kind of learning transfer and moving that into the future, not just ending the workshop when the workshop ends, but truly transferring it further, I did also record an episode on training follow-up and transfer. Can't remember the exact number now, but I will post it in the show notes of this one, and you can go check it out as well. Now, our key number 3 is one that often is or neglected or given too much attention, and that is basically mindset. Let's be clear, without mindset, nothing happens, nothing will work. At the same time, only mindset without strategy and action becomes just a wishful thinking, becomes just a daydreaming. So mindset, even though it feels a bit maybe sometimes fluffy and vague, ultimately I would even dare saying it is the most important of all the keys to take you towards the desired outcome. Why? Because it is the one that will also shape all others. So what mindset means, it means you believe in the goal you have, you believe that goal is possible to achieve, and you believe it's possible for you, and you know how to approach it and how to do it. So you have this set of beliefs that will support you, you're nourishing this set of beliefs if they're not strong yet, that will support you to actually nourish that action and nourish that vision towards the future. Now, the mindset is how you think about yourself, how you think about your vision or your goal, and whether you believe you deserve to make it real, and whether you know how to do it. If mindset is not there, it simply means we will often sabotage ourselves, or we will be weak in our actions and in facing the obstacles, because we won't have true belief that we can step forward in creating this result or this change. So you can think about mindset from perspective of growth mindset as well, like I know I can improve in this, and these kind of set beliefs. But you can also think about mindset from the perspective of my own identity and how I see myself and how I see myself tackling this challenge and stepping into this action or goal ahead of me. Mindset is also positive or negative thinking patterns, because these will hugely fuel our energy and motivation. Mindset is also about self-talk that can give us more possibilities or that can hold us back. And it's also in general our beliefs, not just about ourselves, but also about how should I approach this situation in a way that it gives me the best results. As you know, I work with positive psychology a lot and with the science of well-being and happiness. And one of the big topics there is mindset. It's one topic that I dove in quite deep and quite on science-based side. So if you would like to see an episode on that as well, how to nourish, cultivate change, the positive, like not the positive, but like empowering mindset, let me know. Through LinkedIn is the best, or maybe by replying to any of Trainers Toolbox newsletters, but also in the comments of the videos. Let me know you want to see mindset episode, and I will see to add it to the list of next topics. Now, how can you work with mindset in your own workshops, with your own participants? You can really think and recognize that mindset is often the reason why the motivation of participants doesn't sustain over a long time. So you can work with their mindset also through their emotion, making them more curious, making them more motivated, making them more committed, and just kind of creating space for that. But another thing that you can really incorporate is that as you're stepping into a new activity or maybe a new part of the workshop, to really think from perspective, what is the right mindset here that will help them to engage with this activity in an optimal way? Should they feel like this is big challenge ahead of them? Should they be very confident and feel like it's easy? Should they be curious? What is the emotion and the thought pattern that is best for them to engage with this, so learning would be the best? So really think, once you do the strategy of your workshop and once you do step-by-step design and design specific exercises and actions, think also about mindset and emotions with which is the best for participants to step into this learning journey. By the way, emotions in learning are one of the topics we tackle really deep in an online course called Building Emotional Journeys. It's a fairly short 3 online modules course, but we go really deep, and it uncovers a crazy new perspectives and tools and ideas for you, how you can use emotions in training to really deepen learning, to make your workshops more memorable, more insightful. So if that sounds exciting, check the link in the description of this video on the course of Building Emotional Journeys, or Emotional Journey Design, one of my favorite topics to explore. Now, the 4th key is still missing, right? We talked about strategy and action and mindset, and there is still one that has a huge effect on our results and on sustainability of our actions and results. Now, to be fully fair and transparent, this 4th one is not a must. The first three are practically a must. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. If you don't have do the action and have the belief that you can get there, probably you're not going to get there. But this fourth one is more just to help you make things bulletproof and to fuel your motivation and energy and support that consistency. And it's not like a mandatory chunk, but it's a very useful one. And that is the support. In other words, sharing your journey with others and see how they can support and help you sustain this journey. This is especially important element in aspects when we are stepping into trying to achieve something new that is not so familiar to us yet and that we don't have much experience with. And especially when we are engaging in something that will take longer time to achieve or to learn or to create. Because that is the type of thing where our motivation will have ups and downs and where it will encounter different obstacles in different stages, and then it will be really valuable to have environment and type of community or different type of support to actually help us through those hurdles and to actually sustain our momentum and motivation without having kind of ups and downs. Now, how community can look like? It can be a formal type of support. It can be one-on-one coaching or mentoring, someone who really works with you in a way to support you on your journey to a specific goal. It can also be very informal, and that is in the shape of friends and family. But probably one of the most powerful types of support is communities. Communities that revolve around the same goal and the same progress path and the same thing that you are looking to build, and that will sustain on one side your motivation and momentum, and that on one side will help you get through that change and to that result faster, and on the second side they will help you not to get redirected and not to get lost in any obstacles or challenges on the way. So I would strongly encourage you to think a little bit also for your participants. How am I building different communities? How am I in some way helping them to really leverage the power of environment and the power of connections with others to support them with their insights both in the workshop and after the workshop? Now, all of Trainers Toolbox programs are also designed with these four in mind. And to be honest, in some programs they come across more strongly, while in others they come across a little bit, maybe some things are more in the spotlight than the others, let's put it that way, really depending on what the goal of the program is. But let me give you an example, because maybe it helps you translate these four into real life example and actions. On Train the Trainer course, which is 3 months long course for new trainers or trainers who are experienced but want to fill in any gaps in their workshop design and delivery. So in Train the Trainer, here's how it looks like. The program is 3 months long, and it starts with a really strong strategy in terms of design, of step-by-step approach where we keep deepening every element, and every step is designed very intentionally and things layer up in a very strategic way. I had the chance to refine this program over more than, I think, 14 generations, plus some trainers I did before within other groups, not just on Trainers Toolbox, and really refining that strategic approach. What will step by step take us to the biggest results, and which is the order of topics, and which is the approach in the way that participants work. Because of that strategic approach, one of the things I settled on is that we're going to work in a very action-oriented way, which means when you join Train the Trainer as a participant, you work in a very small group, like 6 people only. And the strategy is that you're delivering very often the small modules on topics that I personally relay, connect to you, because I believe they're the most impactful topic for you based on your previous knowledge, experience, and on your interests. And then you keep doing action throughout the whole course, getting a lot of feedback, getting a lot of support as well, but a lot of challenge and a lot of learning on that way. So it's very action designed as well. But then, where does the mindset shifts happen? Well, they happen on 2 levels. Mindset shifts happen well, 3 levels actually. They happen partially with every piece of new content that we uncover, because it gives you a new view on learning. It shows you some perspective on how learning works that probably you didn't know before for most of the topics we cover. But then mindset shifts also happen in every feedback in discussion after every of your mini exercises, because you get the perspective of someone who is already understands how learning works, but they think and they experience things very differently than you, and they give you very different perspective over how learning can look like. So you get a bit of mindset shifts there, you open new perspectives, you recognize maybe some of your own habits or limiting beliefs. And then the mindset shifts also happens by you experiencing that whole program in its whole intensity and insightfulness, that also that experience gives you almost embodied feeling of how learning can feel and look like, that you take away, and it shapes your mindset and your view on the learning. And then finally, there is aspect of community. Being only 6 of you, going through a journey that's 3 months long, having shared goals and shared, I have to be honest, pretty high challenges that I set for you, but also this safe, cozy environment where you feel connected and safe and supported by others. This sense of community really supports you to go through that journey and to challenge yourself and to really grow, but in a safe and comfortable environment. So in Train the Trainer, this really exists strongly. But then some of the other programs are built depending on their goals. I put much more things in the spotlight that are more relevant for that program. For example, Trainer's Conversation, that is a program that is community, and it's basically a membership for 12 months, for 1 year, goes with the calendar year, where every month we have a community call where we connect, exchange, support each other, and then we have 6 masterclasses through the year where we keep on learning. That is one program that hugely thrives on the key of community, where you have other experienced trainers with very diverse backgrounds, but similar values, that support each other and discover things for each other. And through that exposure to community, you also get a lot of mindset shifts, because you get exposed to how other people do things, and you get new experiences and meaningful conversations, and this all leads your mindset in a bit more open direction. It gives you something new, a lot of new things in terms of insights. And then also simply that consistency of the program with very light time investment, but that consistency throughout the year, it gives you a lot of motivation to dive into action, to keep on learning, to keep on putting things in practice. However, Trainers Conversations is really built to sustain your momentum, to support your development in a very easygoing way, and it's not a very strategic program. So it's not a program where we have very clear goals, where we have something we want to achieve by end of the year. It's much more based as sort of a buffet. You take what you need in every given moment, but you have that option to take what you need, and that's available to you throughout the year. And it often surprises you, because sometimes you didn't even know exactly what you need, and it kind of sustains your momentum. And then the last example, then we have a program like Treehouse, the retreat for trainers, the 4 days retreat. On this one, we work a lot also on recharge and just kind of, taking space and our well-being, but we also work a lot on our vision and habits and systems. So you can think about this program as we primarily work on strategy, even though it's not always like super goal-oriented, what are your next steps, but it's much more visionary. What are you, envisioning and dreaming, and what is the next for you? And we seek to play with some creative methods to open up this new perspective and to allow you to envision things further than you have so far, to really reinvent yourself as a trainer in your practice. So we base a lot on strategy and on mindset, like opening the new thing and so on. On the retreat itself, we do almost no action, because you don't work on any of things specifically, maybe a bit on your skills as facilitator, but you don't do any actions related to your career, you don't do any actions related to your next steps. But you do bottle up a lot of motivation, the right mindset, the right strategy, so you could launch into the action right after. And then for the program, you do have a sense of community that is holding your space, that is fueling your energy and motivation and innovation. But that community doesn't stay with you over the long term. unless you plug into trainers' conversations as well. It's just community for 4 days where we gather, we really connect, we immerse ourselves in this shared space, but it's just that bubble of a community that lasts only for 4 days. So you could say that it's kind of leveraging still all 4 pillars, but on the treehouse, we really put the spotlight on strategy and mindset. So I would say also when picking your next steps, when designing your next development or goals in life, think of all these 4 and see which of the 4 would be good for you to strengthen. So when working in your goals, in your business goals, in your self-development goals, do you have all 4 equally covered? Which of them could benefit from more fueling that key, and that would give you more results and more sustainability over your results? And then go really targeted onto, strengthening these and really using this framework in your next steps. I really hope this framework gave you some useful insights and ideas. I hope you will come back to it both as you're planning new things and also as you are looking for weak links in things that you're already doing and maybe they're not progressing as fast or as continuous as you would like. So I really hope you would use it and leverage it. Do take a screenshot of this summary slide if you're with me on YouTube, or download the brief summary of the episode to keep it in mind and capture it for yourself. And if you would like to work in any of these 4 keys and pillars with me, please do get in touch. There are many ways that I would be happy to support your journey, being it in more formal skill development with Train the Trainer or Advanced Facilitation Bootcamp or Advanced Storytelling Training, or in a more supportive, nourishing, community-based way, such as Treehouse, where you can reinvent your vision, or Trainers Conversation, where you can keep your development warm throughout the year and just keep that support where you need it in a very gentle but sustainable and long-term way. You can always reach out through LinkedIn or by replying to Trainers Toolbox newsletter, and do let me know any of your thoughts. How are you using this? What are the gaps and the weak links? Which of these elements would you like me to dive in deeper in one of the next podcast episodes? I would love to hear your feedback, and also would invite you to help me shape the future topics and the future episodes. Thank you for staying with me. If you found this topic useful, please do share it with others as well. Like it, subscribe for the channel. Let's get this word out there to a bit more trainers and facilitators to really support them in creating their goals, in achieving the things they're dreaming of. See you soon in the next episode. Thank you for exploring this topic with me. I hope you found some exciting ideas and valuable tools that you will use already today. Remember, they only work if you put them in practice, but then they make all the difference. If you enjoy Trainers Toolbox podcast, do leave a rating and review. It does mean a lot. And if you haven't done it yet, click on the links in the episode descriptions and discover free materials and valuable resources to dive in deeper. See you in the next episode or at Trainers Toolbox newsletter.